Shalom everyone, and today we're studying Parashat Shemini, chapter 9 in the book of Leviticus, Vayikra, verse 1. Vahi bayom hashmini, kara Moshe לאהרון ובניו ולזקני ישראל. And it was on the 8th day that Moses called Aaron, his sons, and the elders of Israel. Okay, this is a very, very dramatic parasha, very dramatic, because we have two parts of this parasha. One parasha just to explain the time frame. Whoever was with us in the past few weeks, I'll repeat just a little bit about understanding the time frame. Exodus is on the month of Nisan, Aries, full moon, and 50 days later, Mount Sinai, revelation. Moses goes up to the mount. 40 days later, he comes down with the tablets, and there's a golden calf. He breaks the golden calf, asks for forgiveness, till the nation is ready. So it's another month and a half, a little bit less than that, on the new moon of Elul, Virgo. Moses goes up to the mount for another 40 days. He's coming down with a second set of tablets and with the forgiveness on Yom Kippur. So we are kind of 6 months after Mount Sinai revelation. The day after Yom Kippur, he gathers the Israelites and he gives them the instructions of building the tabernacle as a way to atone and to cleanse and to upgrade everyone involved. So they are building the tabernacle for 6 months. So it's a little bit less. So it is on the month of Tishrei, half of it, a little bit more than half of it, Cheshvan, Kislev, Tevet, Shvat, Adar. Okay, so we have 6 months. And by the end of Adar, that after all the parts of the tabernacle was the portable temple the Israelite carried for 40 years in the desert, which all the instructions are in Parashat Truma Tetzaveh and Vayakel Pekudei, the last parashot of the book, and also Kitisa, the last 5 parashot of the book of Exodus. And then, by the end of the month of Adar, it is the trying to put the tabernacle together, because everything was like a big Lego building. So when you have the box, the Lego, and you look at the instructions, and you want to build something, a house, a tabernacle, a castle, in this case, it's a portable temple. So they put all the parts together, that the parts were built according to the instructions given to them by the Creator through Moses. And it doesn't get together. And then we're coming to our parasha, Vahi bayom hashmini, and it was on the 8th day that they basically put it together, and everything came together. The pieces came together. The actual temple work came together, and there was a great revelation. So the date is, for this event on Parashat Shemini, the date is the first day of Nisan, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, a complete year after Exodus chapter 12 verse 1, that says, that basically declares the whole story of taking the lamb, slaughtering the lamb, blessing the month, slaughtering the lamb, eating the lamb with matzah and maror. It's exactly a year later that are now dedicating the tabernacle. Okay, so this is where we are. Now the question, we have a few questions. Why the parasha is named Shemini, the 8th? Why did it take 8 days? And why do you need to have it established? Why didn't go work before that? And why didn't it start on the 1st of Nisan? There are many questions in there. And in order to understand that issue, we have to understand a few things. One thing is the word Shemini, 8. And we spoke already about it in many places. Whoever studies Kabbalah knows that the word 8, the number 8, has a very big significance. For instance, Hanukkah. It's 8 days of Hanukkah. What's in the number 8? And when we studied about Hanukkah, we explained that the conflict between the Hellenism and Judaism. That was the base of the whole conflict, because the Jews were not so eager to have an independent state under the Persian Empire or under the Hellenistic Empire, as long as they can simply study, learn, pray to God, make a pilgrimage to the temple, make a living. They didn't care so much about physical independence. They had a kind of autonomy, like many nations in the empires of those days in the ancient world. So when the conflict between Hellenism and Judaism became a state, religion, and oppression, and the Jews at that time, we're talking about some 2200 years ago, they were forced to stop being Jewish. That created the rebellion that Hanukkah is commemorating. And because the rebellion was illogical. Why was it illogical? The Greeks were saying, the Hellenistic were saying, we are offering you our amazing, beautiful culture. We have stadiums, we have gyms, we have beautiful buildings, we have beautiful structures of control and government and so on. Why don't you want to be part of that? And the Jews said, because we can't live like this. And there's an old legend about it, and it's like that you can find it in the Midrash. It's like the fox is standing on the next to the river, and he sees the fish in there, and he tells the fish, "Hey, dear fish, you know, why won't you come and live with me in the where am I? In the forest?" And the fish answer him, "You know, where you live, we die." So that was said about the same story. The Greeks were saying, the Hellenistic were saying, we have a ball, we have an amazing, amazing life with the beauty of our temples and our cities and everything, and the architecture is so beautiful and all of that stuff, and we dress nicely and we go, you know, the fashion is amazing and the athletic and we really having an amazing great life. And you Jews, like, why don't you come and be with us? And the Jews were saying, where you live, we die. Why? So the number 8, as we understand, symbolize outside the box. We spoke about it many times. The box means the logical structure of the physical dimension, because your mind can go right or left, forward and back or backwards, up and down. You have 6, and you are the one who operates all of those thoughts. That's 7. So 7 is physical nature. 7. Number 8 is the direction that symbolizes outside the box. 8 in Hebrew, Shmone, has also the same exact letters as in the word neshama, a soul. Different order, but the same letters. Neshama and Shmone, soul. And 8, same letters. Which means what the Jews were saying to the Hellenistic, look, you guys, we don't know. You think you can live just feeding your body with great food, whatever is tasty for you, with being in great shape and great buildings and music and theaters, all of that beautiful stuff, but you're starving your soul. And the Greeks said, we don't starve the soul. The soul enjoys these pleasures. And the Jew says, no, there's another dimension. This dimension, the physical body cannot perceive. Whatever you can see is limited. Whatever you can hear is limited. Whatever you can taste is limited. Whatever you can think about with the physical senses is limited. And as long as you are limited in that, you're imprisoned. Only when you connect to the soul, to the illogical perspective, dimension, only then you become truly free, because our soul came from above into our physical body, and you need to satiate your soul, and satiating your soul only with physical materials is impossible. And therefore, you offer us all of that stuff, but this is only a very small fraction of the pleasure existing in this physical world. There is huge universe of worlds and levels and angels and whatever, and all of that is encoded in the Torah. And our job as a human being is to learn to ascend above the physical senses, ascend above the noise of the physical senses, so we can connect to the real true pleasure, that all the pleasures of the physical world are just a very miserable imitation of the real thing. And therefore, the Jews started to simply resist by, in the beginning, just we're going to the mountains, hiding in a cave, and then celebrating Shabbat. And when the Hellenistic soldiers came in, because it was forbidden to observe the Shabbat, and they killed everybody in the cave, and everybody was, okay, you want to kill us, because just living in your world, it's killing us. Like the fish living in the forest with the fox. Okay? And there's a hinted thing. Why the fox wants the fish to live with him? It's going to be much easier for him to simply make them supper. Okay? So there was not such an altruistic offer that the forest is such an amazing place that you're going to live in. So that was one of the great conflicts of Hellenism and Judaism, and the story is a never-ending story, and we are just facing that same story all over again for thousands of years, because the war is still going on. And the question is, the debate is, can a person reach happiness? Can a person reach balance without the soul, without the beyond, without the outside the box? Can that happen? And modern education is about what you see was what you get, and how you're going to reach happiness. You just learn, become an honest citizen. You go to work, you make a living, you pay the money, then you can buy with that money all the pleasure. You can buy a house, you can buy great food, pleasures like traveling and all of that stuff. And that's okay, that's enough. And here we have the same, by the way, debate within Judaism in the last 2,000 years. If we go to the Jewish world before the end of the Second Temple, so we have the Dead Sea Scrolls, we have some other literature. Most of it is very, very spiritual and mystical. Why? Because the temple work, as we're going to read, was about epiphany, was about experiencing a connection to something that is beyond what can be explained, what can be perceived with the five senses. So let us read a little bit and see what's the story. So on the 8th day, Moses called Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel. And then he says to Aaron, okay, now we are going to try over again. Take a calf from the cattle as a sin offering. Why? To atone for the golden calf, which is another very important thing. The celebration of the dedication of the tabernacle was supposed to be a message from above, so that the golden calf, the sin of the golden calf, is finally atoned, and we can move on with that chapter. And then if we read so Moses is giving the instructions, read it in the chapter. When you come to verse 6, Moses says as follows, Vayomer Moshe, Ze hadavar asher tziva Adonai, this is what God ordered, and you should do, Veyera alechem kevod Adonai, and the glory of God will be revealed upon you. He doesn't say you'll be atoned, everything will be okay, you can go home peacefully. Moses is speaking about the revelation. This is coming back to what was blocked. There was a Mount Sinai revelation. That revelation is being defiled, destroyed abruptly by the golden calf. And now they're waiting for that epiphany, that connection to the beyond. It doesn't say anything of logic. What does it mean? And the glory of God will be revealed upon you. What does it mean? How can he explain it? There's nothing in modern language to explain it. Okay? And why is that a promise? No, he doesn't say if you do that, you'll have a nice, easy life. That's not the promise. The promise is you're going to have, and the revelation will come back. The revelation that was lost at the golden calf. Atonement, correction, hope, the ability to know that you can fall and get up and change, atone, and come back to the game. So the story goes on with more instructions, and then the story, tells us all the details of what they did to the detail. Many details. Okay, and then we come to verse 23 in chapter 9 in Leviticus. Vayavo Moshe ve'Aaron, and Moses and Aaron came, but in Hebrew, Moses and Aaron came, grammatically it should be said Vayavo'u, and they came. But it says Vayavo in single, like they came as one. Because when Aaron was trying to do it for 7 days, it didn't happen. But when he came together with Moses to do it, okay, then it worked. Vayavo Moshe ve'Aaron, they came as one person to the tabernacle. Vayetzu vayivarchu etam, and they blessed the people. And then it says, Vayera kvod Adonai el kol ha'am, and the glory of God has been revealed to the whole nation. Everybody was finally reconnected. The atonement succeeded. Okay? It took many months, but now they made it. Verse 24. Vatetze esh milifnei Adonai, a fire came from God, from in front of God. ותאכל על המזבח את העולה ואת החלבים, and the fire consumed the offerings that were laid upon the altar. וירא כל העם, the whole nation saw. וירונו, everybody was happily singing with joy. ויפלו על פניהם, and they fell upon their faces. Which is something that is very common, that also when we read the books of the prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, the others, a whole bunch of prophets, many prophets, during the second temple time, first temple time. And one thing that we see many times, that when they have a revelation, they fall. And Rabbi Isaac is saying because the revelation creates a kind of um, uh, how do you call it? It's like epilepsy. It's an epileptic seizure. We know today in modern science that in order for a person to achieve epiphany in the scale of a great revelation from the above, we already have scientific tools. It is a very similar issue uh, to epileptic seizure, because in order for the mind to be able to connect to the great one universe, the mind has to shut down the noise of the five senses. And therefore, the body cannot sustain itself, and the moment that part in the brain that is always keeping the muscle tone uh, on, then we can stand. The moment there's no muscle tone, we can't stand anymore on our feet. We have to fall on the ground so we can continue to make the connection. And that's exactly what it says over here. They fell over their faces. They fell on the floor. Okay, so mission accomplished. Revelation, reconnecting to the network of the light of God. Everybody is cheerful. Everybody is singing happily. Mission accomplished. Okay, so let us go on to what we started before. So as we read the ancient literature of the Second Temple time, the last centuries of the Second Temple time, we see a lot of mystical books, a lot of books speaking about meditation, altered states of consciousness, connecting to the heavenly universe, to different levels and layers and so on. It is very, very, very focused on that experience. Remember, the temple is existing during that time till the year 70 CE. The temple is still standing, and those connections were made that we just read about. We just read about it. Every person could come to the temple in Jerusalem and experience that every day. There were 10 miracles that could be visible, that were out of this world, that you can experience in the temple walk. So it is only natural that people were really focused on that great revelation of the glory of God. So people could experience that in the three pilgrimage. However, these connections were made daily, and people came daily to the temple to bring offerings for different reasons. Now, here comes a debate. The temple was destroyed at the year 70, okay, by the Romans, the heirs of the Hellenistic civilization. They just simply continued the same thing, and then, of course, the uh, unavoided clash between Judaism and Roman culture. It was impossible to avoid, because the Jews at that time were already so many in the Roman Empire. Some say 15%, 20%. There were so many. Alexandria, which was New York of the ancient time, was 40% Jewish. It was very, very kind of, always there was a tension between one aspect, the Jews, as the ancient Roman historians or philosophers were saying, whatever is holy for us is unholy for the Jews. Whatever is holy for the Jews is unholy for us. It's like, it's such, especially when the Romans could not understand, how can you worship a God you cannot see, that has no limitation, and there's no statue in the temple. And there was a big gap, and there was no bridge to gap it. When the temple is being destroyed, there was a big argument inside Jewish scholarship, because what was left was just the study of what we're just talking about. The Torah, the commentaries on the Torah, the Mishnah that came more than a century later, and then the Talmud that was expanding the commentary of the Mishnah, and of course the Zohar, but the Zohar was revealed only in the 13th century. So the question was at that time, what is the most important thing? And here, when we look at the parasha, we see there's a kind of dichotomy between two facts. One fact, the detailed explanation of what should be done in order to awaken the cosmic revelation, which means to the detail, all the moves of the Kohen, all the offerings of the different parts of the animals, the slaughtering, everything had to be made precise, and especially, as we said before, just putting together all the parts. So that part is halacha, which means the way you perceive it as these are the laws and that's what you should do. The point is, so what do you do it for? And here it says very clearly, you do it so the glory of God will be revealed to you. That, along the generations, became kind of neglected. So neglected, so when the Zohar is being revealed, and the Zohar is basically revealed for one purpose, to awaken the consciousness that we are not doing all those details of whatever Judaism is about, because Judaism is not about just once a week making a prayer, not even once a day. It is about so many things. It's the moment it follows you from the moment you open your eyes till the moment you go to sleep. There are instructions to every aspect in your life. And there's nothing that is secular. It's all guided by a very broad set of rules. The point is what the Zohar was saying, and later on the Hasidic movement was trying to point with such vigor and success at that time, that if you just do the things that it says in the halacha simply tells you what you should do. But the halacha does not add, you will do that and the glory of God will be revealed upon you. It's kind of redundant. Oh, so redundant that along generations that was forgotten till we come to the 16th century, and Rabbi Isaac Luria, the greatest Kabbalist around in the last 500 years at least, and many years earlier, and maybe from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, says if you do anything of the halacha just because it says so as an order, that's idol worshiping. You worship those actions as the goal. And why does God need you to eat kosher? Why does God need you to go through all those details of making Passover? And that's very relevant because Parashat Shemini, usually when it's not a leap year in the Hebrew calendar, Parashat Shemini is being read, is being like Passover always fall inside Parashat Shemini, which means we start to read and learn Parashat Shemini today, Sunday of the week of Passover, but because the coming Shabbat is Shabbat of Passover. So this coming Shabbat we do not read the Parasha of Shemini. We do not. Okay? So, and then during the week of Passover we do not read the Parasha of Shemini, only in 2 weeks from now. Which means Parashat Shemini is extended over 2 weeks, while Passover is in the middle. Now, why is there a connection? Why is it like this? And the connection is very simple. Because according to Rabbi Isaac Luria, if we understand about Passover, the laws about Passover are much more strict complicated and hard to follow than the regular laws, because every week along the year you have to follow the laws of kosher and many other laws. There's so many laws. All the laws of the halacha are so expanded, and there's so many of them, and you have to know them by heart and relearn them all the time, because they refer to all the actions that we do daily. Now comes Passover, and now you have to change the whole system, the kitchen, the utensils, and then more than that, you cannot have the same food. You have to replace the food, uh, and the rules are so strict, much more strict than other laws of kosher. And what do you do? And you come to the Passover Seder, and also the laws are very like in what we just read, Parasha Shemini. You have to do this and this and this. You have to follow. If you notice, you read the Parasha, Moses is telling Aaron, and they just do one step and another step and another step and another step. In the Seder, we have 15 stages, 15 steps, and we have to follow all of them precisely. Each one of them, the way it's been described, and there's so many laws about each step, how to do it right, otherwise you mess it up. And what do you get? So Rabbi Ezekiel is saying, if you're not focusing on getting the glory of God as a result of following all of these steps on Passover night, what did you do? You just push the buttons of or the keyboard of a dead computer that is not connected to electricity. You just did that. You want it to be online on God's network, you need to have that part of your brain that is focusing on the spiritual dimension very active, in order to be able to connect every action that you make. And again, every action, there are many rules to that action. But if you just follow the rules precisely, and you're not attaching your mind and your heart to the light flowing in the upper dimensions, so what have you done? You just, as I said, why did God give us all of these rules? And He gave us all of these rules and instructions so we can feel, see the revelation of the glory of God. Otherwise, it is a Passover. The whole revelation passes over our head, and we just did all of that stuff, worked so hard to clean the house, to clean ourselves, prepare everything, do the Seder night with all the details, get the most kosher matzot, and all of those issues, get the best food for the Seder, and in the end we had a meal. This is not what we're doing. And why is it so important? Because we are asking right now, again, what is the secret of happiness? What can really satiate a human being? And the answer is money and physical pleasures cannot do it. They're incapable of doing it. There's nothing wrong with physical pleasures. Nothing wrong with a good meal. However, if that is the only thing, that will never be enough, because a human being is a composition, a chariot, Merkava, composition of a soul from the heaven and a body from the earth. And if we do not inject that consciousness in everything that we do, the Passover Seder, everything else, giving charity to the poor, all of those deeds, either the empty religious traditions or they're empty good deeds. You know, people do good deeds. What's the problem? That a lot of people, they do the good deed, they give charity over here, they support over here, they volunteer over here, but everyone gets to that point of exhaustion, of no recognition. You think that you're supposed to be somehow being more rewarded by people's recognition. And that will never happen. Whoever wants to really help other people, don't even think about it. That will that will get you destroyed. Okay? The only thing that will save you is to know when you make the charity, when you help people, you do it as a mitzvah, which means this is the way to connect to God's network, to God's light, because that is your reward, not other people's thanking. Because if we are dependent on other people's thanking, that's not the holiday of freedom. That's not freedom anyway. If our giving and our good behavior is conditioned by the acknowledgement, we're finished. Because we'll never have ongoing acknowledgement that fits our expectations. And that's idol worshiping, because you cannot control other people's acknowledgement. So the moment you develop a dependency, if they said thank you, how did they think, and so on, if you develop that dependency, you're finished. And that will destroy your love life, your family life, your community life, everything, because you're always being in a place of depletion and corrosion, mental erosion. How do you stop that? When it says love others as you love yourself, I am God. What does it mean? When you love other people, you do it because that's a way to connect to God, not because that's going to award you some recognition and some thankfulness. That's not your goal. Your goal is God's revelation. This revelation is the light of that Rabbi Isaac Luria is teaching us. You have to contemplate, meditate, train yourself to connect to those spiritual lights. How do you do that? How do you do that? Okay, there are many, many ways to do it. First of all, prayer. Prayer is a very important method. You keep having a tradition of praying daily. Praying daily. Praying daily to whom? You're not praying in order to change God's mind. That's not the purpose of the prayer. Why? A, God is endless, and he cannot change him, because if you change him, he's not endless anymore. Okay? B, you don't need to change his mind, because his mind is always great about you. He wants to give you much more than you want to receive, but you did not discover that. The only purpose of the prayer is to bring you up, to connect to God's bliss, so he can finally give to you what is waiting for you since the creation of the universe. Okay? So you have to remember that. But if you do not want his light, you do not learn to imagine his light and power, you can't get it, because you cannot get what you don't really know how to describe. How do you train yourself to live, to that your mind can connect to that world beyond the seventh dimension, to the eighth? This Parasha Shemini, the eighth. What you should do? You should train daily on meditation. The easiest, simplest meditation is to meditate on visualizing with the eyes closed, sitting in a meditation position, when, as Rabbi Isaac is saying, when your feet are on the ground, your hands on your lap, open upwards like somebody who wants to receive something. In that moment, when we open our hands, we just tune our body into becoming a dish to bringing God's light. And then, of course, breathing, meditation, you can find on the site, livekabbalah.org. At the bottom, you can find different ways of meditation to connect to practice, even like guided meditation. So you can train that. So you meditate, you by, first of all, relaxing, breathing, visualization, and then one of the greatest meditations is to visualize the endless light coming down as a line from the above, and then it expands into the letter Yud, the Hebrew letter Yud. And then the line continues to come down and expands to the Hebrew letter Hey. And then the line goes a little bit more down and expands to the Hebrew letter Vav. And then it goes even more down to the Hebrew letter Hey. And then the line goes down from the letter Hey into the top of your head. And then it expands into your body, to your head, and then down to your body, all the way to the feet. When it comes to the feet, now visualize how you share that light to others, and then imagine how you push that light backwards, like in thankfulness. Thank you, God, I got enough, and I'm giving back. And that's a very important training for your mind and your soul, because when you do that, we spoke about it in the previous weeks, it's already scientific, you start to develop your frontal lobe. It becomes thicker, more developed, and the more developed it is, the more you can overcome the reaction of the primitive brain that is full with anger and fear and fight and flight freeze mechanism, the 3Fs. Okay, so you push the light back from your feet, up, all the way back, exactly the same way, but backwards. And then from the tip of your head to the Hey, and then to the Vav, to the Hey, to the Yud, and back, thankfully, to the endless. When we keep doing that meditation daily for months, our brain physically will change. The structure of the wiring of the brain will change. We will little by little will get more into that what we're just speaking about over here, which is the ability of the brain to connect to epiphany, to a real prophetic state, to a place in which you make, on one hand, you follow the steps as the halacha is saying, but it's not dead. You do it, and at the same time, you're connecting your mind to the upper world. Uh, Another thing that really works very well after practicing meditation is going through the meditation of the Ana Bekoach, which is called the name of 42 letters. Also using the scanning, meditating and contemplating on the 72 names of God. All of this, if you practice on that daily, for me personally, when I started with that, and I was so unspiritual at that time, I had no idea what they're talking about. But I practiced. I practiced for months. It took me 6 months till I started to feel something. Okay? But I didn't give up. Once a day, twice a day, I was because I knew something in me, was lucky, something in me knew, pushed me to try that and to try that. I was feeling nothing. Everything was like simply like only logic. That's how it was, we are being raised just to trust the logic. Nobody teaches us to connect to energies and to other dimensions, not in school, not in the university, never. This is not our culture is simply dead, unspiritual. It's all about the physical logic, but life is not about that. The human soul needs much higher revelations than that. So we'll read a little bit from the Zohar in order to understand that. So there's an amazing, we just use one little article. In the beginning of the Zohar, of this Parasha, verse 4, רבי יצחק אמר, מפני מה בית פתיחה וסתימה, אלא בשעתה דברנש. We have the first of the Torah, the first letter of the Torah is the letter Bet. Okay? Bet is open forwards, okay? The way Bet is being written it's like Hebrew is written from right to left. So the bet is written like a C with a little uh, addition at the bottom of it to the back. So whoever knows how bet it looks like. But the letter bet is closed behind and open in the front. So the same way, it's like something like this. Okay, that's a cuff. You know, the uh, the original Greek letters, they're coming from Hebrew because the meaning, the word alpha is coming from Hebrew, aleph. Aleph means the head of the cattle, the ox. Okay, that's why if you take the English letter A, the English letter A, capital A, you turn aside, you can see it's an ox with two horns. That's where it came from. Then beta, bet is a house. Okay, but it looks like there's a roof at the top, there is a bottom floor at the bottom, and there's one wall on the right. Okay, what is that about? Why is it open forward and closed backwards? That is the question. אלא בשעתה של ברנש עתה להתחבא באורייתא, הרי פתיחה לקבלה לי ולהשתתפה בעדי. ובשעתה דברנש סתים אינו ימינה, ויח לאח אחרה, הרי סתימה, מסתרה אחרה. כמה דאמר, אם יום תעזבני יומיים יעזבקה, ולא ישכח פתחה, עד דייטוב להתחברה בה באורייתא אנפין באנפין, ולא יתנשי מינה. ועדה אורייתא פתחת כמי בני נשה, ואחזה וקרא להון, אליכם אישים אקרא. וכתיב בראש אומיות תקרא, בפתחי שערים בעיר המראה התומר. Okay. So first of all, why is the bet open on one side and closed on the other side? And he explains in a very simple thing. You could see people, let's say it's very common since the 18th century, people who come to study the Torah scholarly, but it's not scholarly. They have an agenda. The agenda is to prove that the Torah is not divine. The Torah is just a collection of all kinds of words that just people wrote. And they brought like theories that most of them can be really, you don't need to be really smart to realize that these theories have no base. Okay, but the base is, as the Zohar is saying, when you come to connect to the Torah, to study the Torah, but you don't really come with the purpose of reaching beyond the five senses, reaching to the upper world, then the Torah will close itself before you. You'll see just a wall, and you will never be able to see the secrets of the Torah. On the other hand, a person that comes to learn the Torah for the purpose of connecting to godliness, to connect to the God network of light and prophecy, the Torah will open its door to it. And the Zohar gives an example about that man that he was in love with a princess. She lived in the palace next to the marketplace in the city center, and when he was coming to the market, he was looking at the windows of the palace to see if he can see if the princess will reveal to him. She will be standing there behind the curtains, and when she realized that he's the only one looking for her, she would open the curtains, and he will see all her beauty. He will become stunned from her beauty. You will be like, wow. And everybody in the marketplace will see that he's going through something amazing. So the whole crowd will look where he's looking at. The moment they do that, she will close the curtains. What do they see? Nothing. So how do they treat him? Oh, you're crazy. You see things that do not exist. That's exactly the story of the study and the contemplation over the Torah, the study of the Torah. If you study the Torah for the purpose of proving there's no God and the Torah is not divine and so on and so forth, and you're trying to analyze it and to bring all kind of facts about, you will never see the real thing. You won't see the beauty, you won't see the light, you won't connect to what the Torah offers you. You'll have a wall in front of you, you won't be able to see it. But if you come to the Torah for the purpose of love, connection to the world beyond, to the world of the soul, the Torah will open and you will see the beauty. But what you see, only you can see. Only you and other people that have the same intention. So life is the same thing. The problem is that today we live in a very materialistic society and that people are hungry for spiritual connection, but they have no background. And religion is so dead in so many places, so many houses of worship. It doesn't matter what religion. As it's so dead, it's only speaking about either politics, nationality, anything but real godliness. It's all about hating whoever are not like us, or staying away for what's not, whoever is not like us, and the threatening if you don't follow the rules and you just do. What for? No wonder that religion is losing its followers in droves, because you just offer no separation and threats and so on. Who wants something like this? Remember, today it's a market economy, and you can't force people to worship God. And even if you can, in some countries, you can still, community pressure. You don't go to the synagogue or to the church or the mosque or something like this, you'll be ostracized. So what should you do? So you go, but you see the people. Like I saw when I was 16, and one Shabbat, I'm sitting in the synagogue with my father, my uncle, and so on, and I was feeling guilt, deep guilt. Why? I was bored to death. And I looked around and I realized I'm not the only one bored to death. And an idea came to my mind. How could something so boring last 4,000 years? And then an idea came to my mind saying, there was something, we lost it. Because otherwise there's no explanation. How could that survive? And I thought to myself, I'll look for it. If I'm lucky, I'm going to find it. I was very lucky. 4 years later, when I was 20, I bumped into Kabbalah. I didn't realize that was it. But the moment I started to hear what Kabbalah is about, I realized that is what we lost. And that is the ability to connect to that plane of spirituality that we are looking for. And money is not going to be enough. Our society is dying of hunger and thirst for spiritual connection. As the prophecy says, days are coming, and our God is going to send hunger to the world and famine and thirst. Not famine for bread and not thirst for water, but for the Word of God. The Word of God is available. There's so many people offering you the Word of God, so they say. So where is the famine? Where's the thirst? The connection to the upper level. So we'll continue. Verse 5. רבי יהודה אמר, בית טרן גגין, וחד יחיד לו, מאי קאי מיירי, אל אחד דשמיא וחד להרע, וקודשה בריך הוא אחיד וקביל הוא לא. Another explanation to the secret of the bet, the first letter of the Torah, the bottom line is the earth, the body. The top line is the heaven, the soul. And the line connects between them, between the top, the roof, and the floor. That line is God's connection. When we are aware of that, then we can find the true, real satiation, lasting fulfillment, true happiness, and we can finally come to have life that we can achieve revelation, godly revelation. That is the most healing force in the world. That's the most fulfilling force in the world. When you experience that revelation, you don't need so much money. Yeah, you need money. You have to follow the rules. You have to go to work. You have to make money, to make a living, to have all of that. But that you're not dependent on that for your happiness. Okay? You're not dependent on that. And since we're just talking about it, and just the last week, I think they came out with again, with the UN Happiness Index, and Israel came number 4. Why? Because that's different than all the modern countries around the world. Israel has, on one hand, more and more people that are getting more and more technologically advanced, but they also, not like the rest of the countries of the world, they're also becoming more religious, okay, and more community and family oriented. And that is probably why Israel came fourth, number 4 in the world in the happiness index. So there's no competition between spirituality and technology or science. There's no competition. It's like, oh, you have to follow what it says. You read Parasha Shemini. There are certain things in the physical domain that you need to do. Okay, but still, if you don't do that as a vessel, as a tool for preparing yourself to connect to light, God's light that is beyond the senses, the true satiation, the inner fulfillment would not come. And then you make 10 million a year, 20 million a year, 100 million, 200 million, a billion. It will never be enough because that does not satiate the soul. And that is the key for the healing of our society's most terrible ailments of basically unhappiness, loneliness, and addictions to drugs, to medications, to extreme whatever. It's all about that. There's no connection to that dimension, which the number 8 is representing. Good luck to all of us. Happy Passover. And wishing everybody to connect to that great light that will appear like every year on the full moon of Aries, which is the holiday of Passover, so that will fulfill us and sustain us for the coming year. Thank you so much.